I'm Richard Smith and I have autism.
What is autism?
Autism is a lifelong developmental disability that affects how a person interacts with other individuals.
What is autism caused by?
The actual cause of autism is unknown, but it is widely thought that most cases of autism are greatly influenced by two things. The first being a person's genetic factors. Certain genes can contribute to somebody having autism. The second being environmental factors. During pregnancy, a baby might be exposed to certain environmental factors that could contribute to it having autism.
What are the symptoms of autism?
There are three key signs that might indicate that somebody has autism. The first being difficulties in verbal communication, such as understanding stuff like sarcasm. The second one being difficulties in non-verbal communication, such as understanding body language and gestures. The third one being struggling to adapt to any change that might happen in their life. These symptoms follow through to the three main areas of difficulties for people with autism. The first one being social imagination, social communication, and social interaction.
Social imagination.
Social imagination allows us to predict other people's behaviours and adapt to changes outside our normal routine. Autistic people often struggle to adapt to any change towards their routine.
Here's an example of this type of behaviour from our favourite TV character, Sheldon Cooper, who is known for having autistic traits in his behaviour. In this scene, Sheldon is struggling to adapt to change and is panicking as a result.
Leonard, I am overwhelmed. Everything is changing and it's simply too much. I need to get away and think.
What you've just seen is a classic behaviour displayed by autistic people. For many, like myself, change can be overwhelming, and so for us it is important that when change does happen, it happens at a pace that we feel comfortable with. Social communication.
Many people with autism have problems understanding both verbal and non-verbal communication. They often interpret what people say differently, and they take a literal stance on what people say.
Here's an example from the Big Bang Theory of Sheldon struggling to pick up sarcasm.
And what kind of doctor removes shoes from asses?
Depending on the depth, that's either a proctologist or a general surgeon. Oh.
People with autism, often like Sheldon, struggle to pick up sarcasm. This can often lead to autistic people struggling to fit in among their friends and can lead to them feeling isolated and left out. Social interaction.
People with autism often have problems understanding people's emotions and feelings.
Here's another example from the Big Bang Theory of Sheldon struggling to interpret Amy's emotions and feelings.
That's what you're thinking about?
Well, one of the things.
Are any of them me?
Yes. I thought, I can't decide if I should watch the Flash TV show. I know, I'll ask Amy. Anyway.
What are you doing?
You're right, you did kind of kill the mood.
I didn't kill anything. You did, talking about your stupid TV show.
Excuse me? Starting to watch a television show that might run for years isn't a decision to take lightly. I'm wrestling with a big commitment issue here.
Really? That's the commitment issue you're wrestling with?
In this scene, Sheldon has failed to pick up that Amy is upset because he has not realised that Amy wanted him to show her that he loves her, and Sheldon is confused as to why she feels upset. A scenario like this is likely to happen to somebody who is autistic and has happened to me on more than one occasion.
Now that you've learned a little bit about the symptoms and behaviours of those with autism, I want you to start thinking about what it's like for those around people with autism. Here's a series of interviews with people from different parts of my life talking to you about their experiences with me as an autistic person.
Question 1. When you first met me, what was your opinion of me?
When I first met Richard at the start of the course that he was on, which was Level 2 Games Design, he was a very intelligent young learner, you could tell very capable, but he was definitely lacking in a lot of confidence, and I think for me I did wonder how much that was tied into issues around his autism.
Question 2. From your point of view, how did I overcome the issues I faced?
When Richard was on the course, he really did develop and grow as a person, and to do that he had to overcome quite a lot of barriers and challenges that were going against him. One of the great ways that Richard really developed over the course that year was he became good friends with a couple of students on the course, and he used to sit with a girl called Tammy and a young lad called Stuart, and the three of them became really good friends. You really saw that through this friendship, Richard became much more confident in himself, and he started to realise that he had a lot of self-worth.
Question 1. How long have you known me for, and did you think I was autistic when you first met me?
I first met Richard in 2012 during our first year of college. I did not know he was autistic at the time. It took me at least a few weeks to even realise until we actually became better known to each other.
Question 2. How has me being autistic affected your friendship with me?
Being friends with me has had its benefits, because at times we have had our situations. He did find it harder to settle into college at the time when he came to Henley after leaving City College. So for him it was a whole new environment and he wasn't feeling comfortable in it at the time. Again, he broke easier under pressure at the time, and it called us in more to try and back him up on that. It wasn't easy in the end, but we at least came to some compromise, and he's become a better person because of it now, and he feels more comfortable where he is.
Question 1. Can you describe what I was like before I got diagnosed with autism?
As a child, before Richard was diagnosed, from being a small baby, he was always difficult around meal times. He was difficult in terms of what he would eat, what he wouldn't eat. He was a baby that took absolutely everything in, because he would accompany us when I took his brother out to things, and he would get tired by everything that happened. He was quite slow in terms of communication, in terms of learning to talk. He was slow with his motor ability. When he started school, he did have some friends, not a huge number of friends. School found that generally they felt he was behind in his areas of development, and there at different points in time there were plans put in place, individual education plans put in place to support him, but nothing seemed to be followed through. So socially, to some extent at school, he was quite isolated. I think he found it quite difficult when he moved from his junior school up to his senior school. That was a very traumatic time for him. It coincided with him being diagnosed with autism.
How many people in the UK have autism?
The answer is 700,000. 700,000 people in the UK have autism. That's the equivalent to 1 in 100 people, and that number is only set to increase as diagnostic rates continue to rise.
What forms of autism are there?
There are 2 common forms of autism. The first is ASD, which stands for Autistic Spectrum Disorder, and the second is Asperger's syndrome. The big difference is that people with Asperger's syndrome, unlike people with ASD, face no delay in developing their speech as a child.
Do any famous people have autism?
Even though you might not think it, there is a long list of famous people who have autism. Here are some examples.
Susan Boyle from Britain's Got Talent has Asperger's syndrome. Paddy Considine, famous for his roles in Heart First, has autism. Daryl Hannah, who is autistic, was diagnosed in the days when little was known about autism. Tim Burton, the director of Alice in Wonderland, was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome.
However, it's not just actresses and actors who have autism. Some of our most loved TV and film characters also have autism.
As you saw earlier, Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, Sherlock Holmes, who has Asperger's syndrome, Saga Noran from the Swedish TV series The Bridge, and most famously of all, Raymond Babbitt from Rayman, who has severe Asperger's syndrome.
Right, you've learned what autism is and who it can affect, but what is it like actually for an individual who has autism? Here's an interview with me sharing my experiences with autism.
Question 1. Before I got diagnosed, did I think I had autism?
Despite the fact that I didn't know I had autism until 2008, I suppose really for all my life before that I knew I had something, because I started to notice that I wasn't like the other kids when I was in primary school.
Question 2. How was it going to school as an autistic student?
The challenges that I faced at school were, to be honest, they were probably some of the hardest challenges I've ever had to face, and that I probably ever will face throughout my life, because going to secondary school, that's challenging enough for anyone, yet alone if you've got autism, because the problems I had at school is that I never fitted in. I was always the odd one out. I wasn't sure how to talk to people at school, so whenever I actually had the courage to talk to people, I'd either make a fool out of myself or really annoy them. So that sort of led to people calling me stuff like retard and spaz and numerous more names.
Question 3. When did I start to battle the issues I faced with autism?
I suppose I didn't really start to really battle the issues that I faced with autism until I really went to college. Well, from the social aspect of autism, I really conquered my way through that year because I met these two friends called Tam and Stu, and they were really the first people to accept me for who I really was, and we met up quite a lot outside of college, and we all shared experiences, and for the first time ever I felt like I wasn't actually alone, which I felt like quite a lot at school. Talking to those two, making them realise I wasn't so different from everyone else, that it made me realise I could talk to people like the way other people do. I can live a life the way that other people lead them. It's just, for me, I realise it's more challenging because every new situation I have to prepare myself for, and it's not easy for me to do it.
Question 4. What advice would I give to anybody else with autism?
My advice to anybody who's just got diagnosed with autism and who's sort of struggling with it is just get help with the issues you've got with it. Doesn't matter if you're struggling to talk to people or if you feel like you're getting bullied, because it's only going to get better if you've got that support network in place to help you. We are normal people. We have one disability, but nonetheless we are normal people, and also it's easy to forget autism isn't just a condition for us, it's our lives. It's not like we've suddenly woken up one day to having it, we've always had it. And it's important for people to remember that it isn't just a condition for people like me who have it, it's our lives. So you need to be careful the way you talk about autism and the way you treat people with autism.